These things are freaking. It's like I can't even like if I wanted to hit you. Like
what?
I couldn't
Why
even.
would you even think about that?
It takes some time.
I mean,
No, why would you even?
oh shit.
What's up, Light Nation?
What's going on, guys?
So, for those of you who've been following along on our long arm / 3-link rock crawler installation, you'll know that right now, basically we're at the point where we have to weld up all of the brackets. They have to weld up all of the brackets.
We're not welding anything.
I can't weld, really. Practice. Thank you, Ian Johnson, for trying to teach me, but I don't have enough experience to do that, so we're going to let them do it. But we basically have to weld all the bracketry onto both the Jeep and to the rear axle. I believe there's like 11 brackets total, including the lower control arm mounts, both front and rear, on the axle itself, lower shock mounts on the axle itself, the track bar mount, the rear truss for the rear axle,
So a lot of welding and a lot of brackets.
3-link mount.
The new shock mounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bracketry that needs to be welded on. So that's what we're going to do first. And we'll start with the rear Dynatrac 80. All right, JP,
Yeah.
JD,
Yep.
what we got going on here? What's the first bracket we're doing?
Well, we're going to do the raised rear track bar bracket. It's a little bit smaller than the one that Dynatrac conventionally gives with their brackets. It'll allow our truss to be welded to the tubes and bolt to their diff cover very nicely for structure.
Now, you might have noticed before he started tacking this into place, they were actually taking some measurements, basically from the rotor to this, and they were actually taking an angle measurement here as well. And what they're basically doing is making sure that the angle of this bracket matches the angle of the diff, since that's how it goes into the vehicle, and they're making sure that from here to here on the axle actually was the exact same as it was prior. Now, you guys might remember in the very first video for this whole installation process, Diesel had taken measurements of everything on the suspension just to make sure that we had something to compare it to for stuff like this, to make sure that everything's going on exactly where it needs to. And bracket number 2 is going to be the lower shock mount and our long arm mount. Now, this lower control arm and shock bracket actually gives you 4.5 inches of more ground clearance than your factory bracket did underneath the axle, which we all know, more ground clearance equals more awesome. Now, we've also got these little brake line tabs here that we're going to weld into place for our brake lines. And again, as you can see, we're measuring them both away from the rotor here and angle-wise to make sure they're the exact same place that we had them before. Now, the rear axle truss and the 3-link mount is actually in the oven getting cooked from powder coating. But while we wait on that to be finished, we're gonna go ahead and have JD here, our master welder, go ahead and weld in all of the brackets we just tacked into place. Right?
Yeah.
I came
Right.
from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
Okay, so now that we have most of the brackets welded properly onto the rear Dynatrac 80 axle, we're gonna go ahead and move to the frame. We do have, I believe the rear truss is out of the oven from cooking from powder coating, but it's still like 300 some odd degrees, so we're gonna let it cool off a little bit before we worry about welding that onto the axle as well. And while we wait, we'll go ahead and get started on the frame, which I believe we're gonna start with the front. All right, Mr. Diesel, what are you doing?
Well, this is the front control arms. This is the brackets that
they bolt to. So what we're gonna do is bolt them up to this cross member and then put them all up together. And then when we install our bolts, the placement of these should be right where they need to be. And then we'll push them against the frame, tighten it up, and we'll be able to burn it in.
All right, so now that we've basically got this plate bolted up into place and we've got the brackets bolted to it, you can see that it aligns your brackets perfectly where they need to go and where they need to be welded. So they're gonna go ahead and do that. Just like that, Mr. JD has laid down some pretty amazing dimes, especially over on this side, because you're like, ah, no big deal, right? But then there's
Way up in there.
way back in the, hold up, I bet you I'm gonna see if I, maybe from this side somewhere, hold up, wait, keep pointing. Oh, I can see it. I can see it. Dude, look at that. They look good. So I don't know how the hell you got your hand back there, but
Wait, did you do it without exhaust?
yeah, he did it without pulling the exhaust. Dude, right on. Good job. So remember how I told you that we were waiting for that rear truss and 3-link mount to cool off because it had just come out of the oven from being powder coated? Well, being that we're in New York, they found a pretty interesting way to cool it off nice and quickly.
Set it in the snow.
Now, for those of you who have been following along, you'll remember this is the first ever Dynatrac 80 specific truss and 3-link mount. And to help commemorate that, Krawler has come up with something pretty freaking cool, and they're letting me kind of put the final touches. Check this out.
Make sure it's facing the right way so you
It
can
is
read
facing the right way.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm absolutely positive.
Get it?
Yay!
Did it do it?
That's one!
Hey, look, that's what a quality one looks like.
Look at that! And again, because this is both for Dynatrac and Krawler is creating it, we have to put the RK star in there as well. Now remember, very, very soon, you'll be able to actually order your Dynatrac axles with these equipped for it, if that's the route you want to go. They'll be making them not just for 3-link, but triangulated 4-link, and a ton of other cool stuff. That way, if you do want to go with Dynatrac axles, you can actually get it from Dynatrac with the proper bracketry already equipped. This is really, really cool. All right, you guys, so we have to finish getting all of these brackets welded up onto the frame. We also have to go ahead and prep the rear Dynatrac 80 to get that new truss welded to it. However, it's getting a little bit late. We gotta go take Jelly back to the hotel. We gotta get her fed. I also have a video I have to edit because I have to upload it tonight. Haven't even started. However, Diesel and JD here are super freaking fantastic enough. They're actually gonna stay late and get this thing put mostly back together, prepped and ready to get the axles put back in tomorrow morning. So we're gonna let them do their thing and we will see what the stepchild looks like in a few hours.
We're going home.
back in this morning, and JD and Diesel freaking killed it. The Jeep is, look at this.
It's all nice and freshly painted.
Look how fresh it looks. It's like it's never, we never
got
wheel
real.
it or something. No, for real though, guys. You guys freaking absolutely killed it, JD. And now, at this point, we're basically ready to put all our skids back on, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the next step.
Okay, so everything's in, like Brittany was saying. The skids are going back on. Those all completely fit. Nothing so far needs to be modified. Here is the brace that locates the brackets, and what we're going to do is we're going to bolt the skids right to this because the bolts are long enough to go right through here, and we'll be good to go. Don't forget about this little flag nut right here. So one day I hit this cross brace so hard I knocked the nut loose that's pressed into the aluminum subframe here. So we welded a flag nut to it, and it kind of just floats in there, and you got to make sure it's there before that bolt goes up, and then you gotta kind of float it and make sure it starts to grab, and then tighten it down. Yeah, so it's it's lined up now. I just stuck my finger in there and it's good to go. So this is super fun stuff. I can't wait to get all the measurements because eventually we're gonna go even crazier with this, but not right now. Eventually we're gonna go crazier with this, like a couple months down the road.
Dun dun dun.
Maybe we'll go see Diesel. Maybe we'll go see Diesel.
That's right. Get jacked and stacked.
There you
right
go.
Here, stacked off road.
So stacked off road in North Carolina, right? We're planning on maybe going to visit Diesel
We're a little bit warmer.
after EJS. So between EJS and Jeep Beach, we may be going there to do a couple more things with the stepchild. Maybe. So what we're doing here, what we found out was the skid plates trying to bolt onto the frame over here wouldn't quite go up because the way the skid plate's bent right here. So all we're doing is we're notching a little place of this additional cross member out so that way it can sit back up flat again. So it's just this little corner we're having to notch out. All right, so we just notched this guy out. It's kind of hard to see now. Oh, here, on this backside. So all we do is notch this out, and then that allows this guy to French right in there. Look at that. Bam.
Weirdly enough, probably one of the most impressive parts so far of this entire installation and build process is the fact that these all went back on. They've taken such a beating, these metal cloak skids, that when you take them off, we showed you, they're kind of like, they're super wonky. So we were actually genuinely worried that when we initially took them off that we might not have been able to put them back on. But hey,
for a while and never got it
success!
Tight, so don't want to all right, so you guys know we have all the brackets on it. We're getting it set back up safely on the lift. Now all the arms need to be adjusted. Anybody's going to send you a list that gives you pre-measured out lengths. So it'll say for a 3.5 inch lift, the arm should be this long. For a 4.5 inch lift, the arm should be this long. So you'll go off of that, you'll set your arm length, get it installed on the vehicle, put it all down, and then start taking measurements of your pinion angle, of your caster, and then from there, the arms may have to be adjusted slightly. More than likely they're going to because everybody's vehicle is a little bit different. But that's where you start. That's where we're at. I'm super excited because now we get to hang these things and see what kind of clearances we have. God, these things are freaking... It's like, I can't even... Like, if I wanted to hit you... Like,
why would you even think about that?
Take some time.
I mean,
No, why would you even?
Oh shit! Use this as your warm up batting, and then when you grab your actual bat,
Feel like you got nothing?
holy crap!
That's beefy.
Oh, we're gonna go measure the Jeep after all this.
Oh, weigh it?
Yeah,
Weigh it on a cat
measure.
scale?
Did I say measure the Jeep?
Weigh it.
We're gonna go weigh it. Okay, so we've got all the arms hung. Here's our third link right here. So we no longer have upper control arms on the outside. So these are just the lower control arms. They're mounted on the outside of the frame. Now, something that's a huge deal in stability between the JL and the JK and other vehicles before it is that from the factory, the shocks are outboarded. That means that instead of being on the inside in here mounted, they are actually on the outboard here on the outside of the frame. Now that's huge for stability. From there, what we're doing is we're increasing the ride comfort and the quality and the off-road ability by going to these longer arms because of the way the axle will now pivot. Now, Going to the 3-link, that gets rid of the upper links, the upper control arms, which would cause a bind a lot sooner. And then also, people have already started commenting about the 3-link being like, well, you don't really gain that much because it's already outboarded. Well, that's not true. You still have the stability, but now you have the flexibility. What happens is the axle can move a lot smoother without going into bind so quickly. Now, one thing, I'm going to bring Jeremy Pierrick in here for just a second, because
What's up, Jeremy?
he's actually working on the Jeep himself. What I've heard is like people that are concerned about this braking. They're like, well, you used to have a 4 links, and if you broke a link, you still have 3 links left, and now you're just going to one center, and if the link breaks, you're screwed. But I mean,
and there is truth to that, and that's a very, very monster size if. At Rock Hard, we've never had one fail ever. I mean, it's just something. It's just we've never seen it. Never happened. Ford Mustangs are putting 1,000 horsepower to the ground with an independent 3-link rear and a track bar. That's what they have back there. It's very customarily done. And again, if we ever had a failure, we would seriously think about looking at doing something else because we can.
Well, and that was actually one of my responses. Well, I don't mind testing stuff, and I mean, I know this is JL, and we got a big axle. And the one thing that may be different is that we're pretty heavily weighted. I mean, we have a lot of stuff in the back,
but JK's far outweighed what this thing's ever going to weigh. I mean,
that's true.
We saw JK's tip the scales at 7,000 pounds.
Yeah, the JK frame, the body, everything was heavier,
right?
And they throw these same mods on it, and you haven't had a failure in a JK,
ever. I mean, even in Ultra 4, anything that we've done in our entire lifetime in existence, we have not seen a failure of an independent 3-link rear.
Also, if you think about it, things break. What happens if your front U-joint breaks? What happens if your axle drive shaft?
If your drive shaft,
you're dead in the water. I mean, things break. Things are abused. Right. The biggest thing is taking these things down, inspecting them, making sure the jam nuts aren't loose. That's maybe where you get a breakage.
But that goes for literally anything on your vehicle.
Right. Removing suspension bind from your vehicle not only makes it smoother on the street, but it also makes it much, much smoother off-road. That's where you get all your jounce in your vehicle when you're hitting stuff. Is not only is it the spring and the shock, but also the suspension bind trying to fight through that is tossing you around inside your vehicle. This will have none. This axle will move like it was a triangulated 4-link. You know, as far as freedom of motion is concerned, it will be exactly that. You know, if the federal laws were different, you know, you could do something differently with a gas tank, so it didn't have to be mounted between the axles. Yeah, there would be a lot of other options out there. And for some people that don't care about those laws and don't drive on the road as much as you guys, you know, going across the country or want a dedicated trail rig, sure, a triangulated 4-link or a double triangulated 4-link rear is certainly a great option. But, you know, it's just...
we can't move that.
Right.
As soon as the gas tank comes into play and you have to meet federal mandates, this guy's not going anywhere.
And I know people would say, well, your Hemi... no, our Hemi has CATs, no check engine light, and it passes emissions.
Passes emissions in New York State.
So, I mean, okay, hydro assist isn't technically DOT legal, but again, that's not as big of a safety issue as putting a gas tank back here, and then somebody rear ends us, and
then you're a ball of flames.
Yeah.
So basically, the pros of the long arm.
Okay, pros of long arm. Can we?
Obviously, much longer control arms, much less operating angles, much less axle steer or rear steer, especially when we're focusing on the rear of the vehicle. The independent 3-link, no suspension bind, manipulated instant centers for a little bit of different anti-squat. So, like your climb on back door, you know, you could watch the vehicle kind of duck down a little bit. This is going to have something where it's going to just set stable and want to shoot straight up that hill. You know, there's a lot of manipulations that you can do once you start moving the mounts around.
The 3-link, the shocks are going to limit before this will ever.
This will never bind. You'll have another mechanical limitation first, like your drive shaft swinging over and hitting the gas tank, or
something else.
Yeah, going up and then hitting the bottom of the tub.
So in layman's terms, for you guys who didn't understand as much of that mumbo jumbo, it basically means better ride comfort both on and off road. It means better capability on road, off road, and overall, it means that this thing is going to be even more of a monster and more awesome, both on road and off road. But there are cons.
Okay, so real quick, cons of a long arm, from what I understand, is cost.
Yep. Can't ever go back.
You're never going back, and it's a bit labor intensive.
We literally just cut off like
everything,
all of the stuff.
So that's it. So as long as you got the pockets, you don't ever plan on going back to short arm or mid arm for any reason. Then
there aren't any cons
really
in that case.
Any cons.
Yeah.
And then now cons for a 3-link.
Again, if there would ever be a failure, but we've never seen
that's
it.
Right.
That's a big if.
Really
so
big if.
Other than if you have this 3rd link or something fail, there's no other cons. I mean,
No.
it operates better altogether.
In every shape, wave, form on the JL, it operates better.
So for those of you who are wondering why we were deciding to go long arm and 3-link. There you go. Now let's put this thing together. Okay. Let's go. So this is unfortunately one of the downsides of modifying a vehicle that you beat the absolute crap out of. If you haven't seen the stepchild before, a lot of our brackets are just like crushed. So although we got the other arms out, we're kind of having to work at some of the original bracketry that we didn't cut off to basically mold out the crushing bits so that we can fit the arms in there. But it's working slowly.
Alright, so at this point all the arms are on and connected, the brake lines are on, the track bars are on, literally everything is hooked up. So now we get to start articulating it and looking for any kind of mechanical interferences to find out how long we can go with shocks and all that other good stuff.
But you'll have to wait until next time to do that. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget
You gotta wait.
to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, you can find all of your Lite Brite Nation merch at litebritstudios.com. All of your Lite Brite Nation decals at pixeldecals.com. We love you, and we will see you next time.
Later guys. Stay tuned. More awesomeness is coming. Look at these weld fumes dancing. Look at this. They're just... It's just a layer. No, come on, that looks cool as Well, now it's getting all broken up.
Some people are just born high.
Yeah, I enjoy the little things in life, like when I'm inhaling welding fumes and I get high and, oh, it's going away. Bye, friend.
What's up, dude? What's up?
Oh, Jelly's getting jealous. Jelly, what are you doing? Jelly, get down. Get down. No, ma'am. Poor Tank. Oh, oh.
What's up, Tank? What's up, Tank?
Poor Tank. I'm sorry,
Tank.
Jelly. Sexual harassment.
What's sexual harassment?
JK for a long while.
Jelly Belly. Jelly, what are you doing? Did you get the ball? Did you get the ball? Did you get it? Oh, it's a squeaky ball.